Hey guys, hope everything is going well. Welcome to this rare morning edition live stream with my man Ziggy. Ziggy, what's going on, man?
Good morning. Happy holidays to you and everybody in
Yeah.
the chat. Thank you for joining.
Yes, happy holidays to everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever else you celebrate. All righty, let's look at some of the comments here. Steve Splenda, I'm ready for some morning hanky panky. Too early for that. Whoosh says maybe panky. Steve says it's never a bad time for Hankus Panky. Whoosh says 50 years in the hobby, mostly baseball.
Nice.
Michael Ham says never too early. And Brian says, or Brad says, my morning coffee tastes like some hanky panky. So what's going on, Brad? Anyways, and what's going on, Michael? So Ziggy, there's a lot of things going on right now. And one of the topics I think you DM'd me about and we just talked about just for a quick second was regarding Lesko and his findings on alt and the whole Beckett alleged trimming. So your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I want to say I cannot tell you how excited I am to hear about this story. Like, I think this is one of the bigger stories in the hobby that no one has understood yet. I listened to probably 4 or 5 different people. You put out a video yesterday, I think, because of Carlos. What's first of all, a lot of the people put out videos are those people who are opinionated, right? Who are willing to put out their opinion out there. You haven't seen a single video from some of the more mainstream guys talking about this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're definitely not seeing anybody from collectors. You're not going to see anybody from Beckett talk about it. Any SCG boys talk about it. We'll see they talk about it. And the reason I say that is because what this talks about is liability. Liability. Lesko brought up the question, said, should a grader be liable if they grade an alter, trim, or misrepresented a card? And I think the poll, if you go to his channel, I think it was like 80% said graders should be liable. And 20% no, it's just an opinion. Let me just focus on something. The facts are, guys, it's just an opinion. That is the reality. Grading is just an opinion. I would be shocked if this case has any liability. And the reason I want to talk about that is let's talk about what the case is about. And I know, Raul, you talked about this, is that Beckett had a card, 9.5. It was cracked by alt. They then sent it to PSA. PSA came back and said, no, we're not going to grade it because it's trimmed. They sent it to BGS to try to reslab it. BGS said, no, it's trimmed. Now, the question that comes up is, well, when did the trimming take place? Well, let me ask you guys a question. This PSA has this whole claim about how we'll guarantee anything if it's trimmed or if it's altered. Well, who determines that? That is the primary question no one's even asking. Because here's the thing. We're all arguing, well, we don't know who opened it. If they sent it to PSA in its slab and PSA then cracked it open and PSA determined it was trimmed, would we trust PSA's voice over Beckett? Like, who would that have made this case any different? Because, and the reason I say that is there are no grading standards that have everybody's agreed upon. Beckett could have argued, no, we don't think it's trimmed. PSA could have said it was. And if they were allowed to do that, if Beckett did take that slab and open it up, then they have the ability to then put another competitor out of business by claiming, hey, we're saying it's trimmed based on our standards, and then a whole liability lawsuit opens up. That can't happen. So I'm saying the biggest issue here, guys, is there is no liability in grading. How would you legally say that one grader's right and the other one's wrong? You can't, right? So my whole point about this whole case and why it's so big is it needs to press the problem that we don't have in grading. There needs to be standards. There needs to be a licensing, a regulation. In order for grading to work, a standard needs to come out. And then people need to propose that we're going to accept the standard. And then graders to accept that standard should say, hey, we accept the blank, 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 like the ISO standard in its certification. The problem we have too is there's too many graders. Is every grader going to be liable for an opinion? No. So the best part about this case, the mistake that Alt did, is even going after this monster. Alt has no chance in winning this, in my opinion. And I'm surprised, again, more people, and we have a lot of lawyers in the hobby too. I'm not a lawyer, guys, but liability is the question here. And there is absolutely no liability. Like, how would you, like, and the reason I bring this up is I think PSA's whole claim and guarantee is a fake claim. It's a claim that can never be honored, right? Because I rewind this. If PSA says if we grade a card and later on determines to be slapped and altered, trimmed, or whatever, we'll refund you the money. Well, who determines it later on? Who opens it up and says, oh, yeah, it's trimmed? Does Beckett do that? Does CSG do that? Do they have the authority to do that? Do they have the authority to then cause PSA to pay money? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you bring up a lot of points. And regarding PSA, So if you go on Blowout, you could find many cards that are allegedly trimmed that are in a PSA holder, BGS holder, etc. And Golden, what they do is if they get called out by multiple people, they'll take it down and then PSA will decertify it. And then they're going to most likely send a reimbursement check to the person that sent it via consignment. So it seems that there's a lot of cards that are graded. This is the other thing that many people didn't touch base on. There's a lot of cards that are graded right now in many types of holders. And I'm just going to use PSA. And PSA doesn't do stuff about it unless a big name calls them out. And I've sent a DM to Nat Turner about this alleged Connor McDavid Cup card that's right now on PWCC. And on Blowout, it's most likely showing that there was some hanky-panky going on with the card. So I'm just thinking, wait, if PSA is told about this and they're just like, okay, we'll take a look at it. But if they don't get called out by a big name, they're going to do nothing. That's how I look at it. So I think
I agree. You're absolutely. And the sad thing, guys, if you think about the instances, I can only think of 2 instances where the PSA did anything. And one was the autograph that I forget the name of the channel. Splendid. No, it wasn't Splendid. Sports Cards. I can't remember that. The small channel who found that altered autograph. You know what I'm talking about? Because they could prove the autograph was altered, that PSA took an action. But you're absolutely right. Unless there's a public opinion, no other reason has made them changes. For example, the Honus Wagner we all know is a trimmed card. Number 1, Honus Wagner, the card that PSA has, they later on admitted, or somebody admitted, was trimmed. Does that mean that PSA is liable to that amount of money? Is anybody going to press that on them? So my point here, I want people to take away with this legal thing. It's exposing 2 things. Number 1, there is no liability in the hobby. Don't listen to PSA's bogus, we're going to guarantee. It's only, like you said, if enough pressure comes on them. But if you have a card that you suspect's trimmed, who do you go to prove that? I mean, if PSA is not going to return a card because they lost one like they did with Bench Clear, you're sure enough, I can't believe they're going to believe somebody who opens a card and says, look, I found it's trimmed, or how did you even go about proving that it's trimmed? You know what I'm saying? There's so much gray area there. And again, I think the point I want to make here is that we need to stop. Like I listened to Neo talk yesterday. He read over all the guarantees in the certification. And again, in my opinion, he made it sound like he was very pro PSA. He's like, well, PSA is the only one that has the guarantee. And he emphasized that SGC does not have in writing any guarantee about, replacing the card. That's only a Peter guarantee, the CEO. And I think that's the point, because again, I think legally lawyers know this. There is no liability in grading a freaking card, guys. They can't be. I even think PSA knows that, so they're able to put that bogus guarantee on there and then honor it when they feel like they want to and ignore it when they don't. And I think, again, why this case is important is to see what comes out of that. Will the judge rule, hey, first of all, there's a whole chain of custody argument, but then even go back to liability. What do you want me to do? What would he do if you could prove the card was trimmed? What would Alt want to be done? What damages would they want paid? I don't even understand that. What liability?
Very good point. So let's take a look at some comments, and I'm going to come back at it with the Bench Clear stuff. CNT Collectibles, what's going on? Joe says, 2 of my favorite creators separate from Hanky. Why do each of you feel is the most cringe content creator? I'll let you answer that one.
I'll tell you right now, it's Sports Card Reckoning. I hate to say his name because I'm giving him press, but he's the most cringe.
Yeah, and you're going to be in the next video.
I'm already in his videos. And I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? And I'll tell you, if you're listening, sir, I just don't understand. I applaud you as far as being a creator. I don't want to be negative. I'm pretty open-minded. In fact, I'll tell you right now, somebody criticized it. Why do I listen to people I don't like? I listen to everybody because I think you have to understand how other people think in order to be prepared on how you're going to respond, right? You can't just be biased. Well, I don't listen to him because he's wrong. I listen to people because I want to know what they're thinking and saying. And I just, he's the most cringe one out there.
All right. Brad says, being in soccer world as my main niche, Beckett, BVG are terrible at spotting trimming. It's been a consistent problem, especially with CR. I'm not sure what that is.
Let me even add this to it. We also admit only in the card industry is trimming even considered a taboo, right? Because in the comic industry, it's not. So what if the judge sits there and goes, well, I got comics and we press and trim these all the time? Like, why would the judge even think that he's going to this brings to light so many wonderful things. Like, I really hope what it does, it pushes that we need standards, we need licensing, we need regulations in this industry. Because if you have that, then you can have liability. As an example, a hair person that does your haircut, or a cosmetologist or whatever, they have to be licensed by the state that you live in. Because if they do damages to you, there's liability. Did you know that? I mean, that's why that's even there. Professions have some type of, and then they can have an insurance program. So if you want to have any, I'm going to sue Beckett for liability, you got to have regulations. A lot of stuff has to happen, which I'm all in favor for. In fact, I think this is a great move for TAG, by the way, because TAG could come out with real quickly and here are our technical specs for what we believe a card should be graded in, and propose that and have others, come in and chime on it. And then TAG could verify it all the time with their AI. Humans can't verify the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah. As much as I don't like what's going on in the industry, I don't know if I want the federal government involved even more in the hobby, maybe to conduct fraud or combat fraud, which their job technically is, right? That's, but that's just my opinion. I could talk about it another day.
Raul, I understand. And I think you're like me as a libertarian, like less government and laissez-faire. But there comes a time, I think, when I just feel like if you look at the sports card industry, it might never get regulations. It's been going on for 100 years without it, and it will probably can go on another 100 without them. But if it wants to get better in an investable asset class with liability and all that stuff that people think, it's going to need regulations. So one thing I've been claiming all the time, when everybody says all this institutional money is coming in the hobby, it's not coming in the hobby. It's people coming in to extract money out of the hobby by building systems that take transactions away, right? So every time you do a sale, we take $1, we take $1 here. Now, when they start losing more dollars, they start asking questions about why they're losing dollars. So if real institutional money wants to come in the hobby, we will need some form of and it could be a self-regulating body, right? It could be like a FIFA organization. The hobby FIFA rises up. It could be a corrupt organization that regulates, but at least something should be regulating the hobby. And I'll even just go on a tangent. That's one thing that kind of bothers me the most about all the infighting and the hate going on. Look, I'm not a Jeff Wilson fan, but Jeff Wilson could be a catalyst for change because he has a good voice. Now, I know black people don't like him, but you show me other people out there that would be good catalysts for change. Another one that comes to mind would be baseball card collector, investor, dealer. He's a well-respected person who could organize, or, he could say something, we need to do this, and people would rally around that. But we lack leaders that people would say, hey, let's make positive change in the hobby. Why is no one talking about the damn Panini stickers anymore? Right? Those Panini stickers, which are giving out the kaboom codes, that's an issue. That didn't go away. Panini never addressed that, right? And no one's talking about that anymore. So we're just going to go back, and a year from now, people will be picking the right boxes again. Well, I wonder how the hell that happened.
Yeah, indeed. All right. So just one more comment. So South Florida Cards and Collectibles, good morning. What's going on? All right. So I wanted to go back to what you're saying earlier about Bench Clear Media and the NDA that they had to sign in order to get a refund. And I've heard this from other people as well. Bobbles and Ball Card, I think you saw that video too, right? Where it was a LeBron card. Do you remember that video?
Yep.
So I just find it weird how the Collectors Universe brand, they want to act all in secrecy. I mean, there's a lot of issues going on. And some people say that, hey, maybe it's in their best interest. But now if you have big channels speaking up like Bench Clear Media, this doesn't make them look good. Now, sure, PSA is the leader right now, but this opens up the door for competitors to PSA, maybe an SGC, to gain some market share. And I think it's just a bad move. And we could talk more about PSA and their hanky-panky regarding content creators. But your thoughts on this?
Well, let's see. I just put a link in the private chat to you because I can't access public. You can put that in the public. That is a link I just found to a channel this week where the guy gets a PSA. His name of the channel is Outlaw Sports Company. And he actually has a positive note about PSA. And the short story was he had a complaint about some cards getting graded. He argued with them. 6 months later, they sent him $100 credit towards his account. No NDA needed to be signed. And I actually asked him that because he talked about the whole issue. He then, did a video about it. I said, you didn't have to sign an NDA on that? He goes, nope, I did not. And he even made a conference to Bench Clear that his channel's not big. Now, the reason I bring that up is that consistency. Like, what the hell, PSA? You're gonna tell one channel you gotta sign an NDA and another guy gets his little card on the side. I mean, that it goes back to what you're saying. As far as them being number one, in my opinion, it's a marketing reason why they're number one. Technically, the lack of a 9.5 is the reason they are number one. Mathematically, I don't know if Pancake Analytics is out there, but this is the reason PSA is number one, because mathematically it's easier to get a gem mint on when you round up from 9.4 to 10, right? Because a 9.49 would become a 9.5 and 9.5 becomes a 10. It's just math. PSA is easier because I don't use a 9.5, which I applaud Tag for not using a 9.5. They're the first company that's done that. I personally think if people want to beat PSA, be PSA. SGC could easily just drop the 9.5 and start doing only 10s and do 9s, right? And go after the same business. Everybody, oh, they don't want to do that. What about all the 9.5s they have? The hobby won't remember. A year from now, when new people are grading, they're going to look at what card. The reason most people grade, unfortunately, two reasons: registry, and they're making profit. And PSA locks up both those. The PSA registry is still a very addictive thing, and they lock it up with the value in the resale. And again, I don't know why more people. The PSA registry is lame. Like, if you've ever seen what you get in it, it's not very exciting. But I hear everybody talk about it. Sports Card Live, I like Jeremy on there. He talks about how he's a big PSA registry guy. He gets his cards in, he puts them in the registry. It seems to me to be very low-hanging fruit for someone to make a more exciting registry system that gave prizes, that was more social media involved, right? That you could do so many cool things with that would drive collectors away from PSA. But those are the two things I think that companies need to do, is focus on. You got to go after that value on the 9.5, and you got to go after the registry.
Indeed. Good points. I think the other thing with Collectors Universe or /PSA is they've had a good control, in my opinion, over the content that's out there. And I'll explain to you why.
Yep.
So we have multiple content creators out there that are part of the Collectors Universe brand. She collects cards. I know you've done videos on her.
Yep.
There's your buddies at Card Ladder. Yeah. And then I think Carlos is associated with PSA Canada, even though he's not a big channel.
Yeah, it's not the same. I will say that's not the same.
It's not the same. I agree.
It's the brand.
It's a brand, right? Now, I think card porn, I think, is probably, even if they're not bought out by Collectors Universe, there's clearly a bias in the content that is out there, in my opinion.
There's a lot. I'll bring up another topic. Is what I refer as clout chasing. Okay.
Yeah.
And I do think one thing that might come up, I personally think that Ken Golden, I don't like Ken Golden. I'm not going to go on a rant about Ken Golden, but I'm not alone. I think most seasoned hobbyists don't like Ken. They know the history. They can Google search him. Okay. I think a lot of the new hobbyists who came in the recently did like him, and he did a great job marketing to them. But when those people are gone, the new money, I'll call it, in the hobby's now receding. The old money doesn't like Ken, and that's why those auctions, in my opinion, are doing worse. That's why I think the ball didn't sell for $3 million personally. Okay, I would like to, personally, I'll tell you right now, I would like to see the card porn auctions not do well. I think what card porn did was just atrocious. Right? I think it's terrible to claim to be a hobby watchdog and then use that to shill your own damn collection. And what bothers me, the clout chasing, is then you get teams like Luca Tigers and Bronze, which I like them and I like their content. But when you have Cage sitting there on the Golden channel or on his channel, talking about the Golden auction, about how this card's gonna be great and this is a great autograph, why are you doing that, dude? Is he doing that because he really wants to help card porn? No, he wants all the card porn 100,000 followers to see him and to follow him. This is all clout chasing. It's ridiculous, and people don't think about the association, because the way I associate it was, look, you're associating with PWC, you're associating with Golden, you're associating with the known bad actors in the hobby. And I'm not going to forget that. And there's a lot of people like me who aren't forgetting the bad actors in the hobby. Alt is another one, guys. Alt stole data in a little app they built that was supposed to give you price information. Now, the reason they took that down real quickly is because of GDRP or GDPR, whatever it is. It's the regulation in Europe, because they were in complete violation. If it was just in the US, that little spyware application would have kept on running. Okay.
I thought card porn called them out when card porn was
actually I think it was Card Ladder who called them out, if I'm not mistaken. I want to even give credit to, I want to say it was, but the point is that software was terrible. And yet here we are a year later going, oh, alt, who even used alt? They should have gone out of business immediately. So there's too many of these companies out there that were clout chasing. I can get views if I hang out with PWC. Like there's so many people who are PWCC fans. I don't like PWCC. The company should go out of business. I don't know why we continue to support a company that's known for bad acting in the hobby, right? And they never came out to apologize to anybody. They just know they can move on. And again, you can look up all this stuff, guys. It's all researchable. And Sports Card Radio is an excellent resource for this. And I'll tell you this too. Those people like myself were watching them years ago. We knew about that. We knew about PWCC. Go look at their website on the PWCC trimming scandal. I just think it's important that people research that, understand what's going on there, all the pieces. There's a lot of people involved. And I wouldn't want to be involved in anybody's part of that.
Yeah. Speaking of PWCC, you were talking about margin calls before when I was talking about it. P. Ryan Collection was talking about it. I think P. Ryan was looking at it from a PWCC perspective and him able to tie out the pieces. And also he probably knows a lot of high-end people in the hobby. So margin calls, do you think it's happening on like PWCC and alt, and then the other auctions are just holding off some of the cards right now because they see the deterioration in the high end?
I do, and I think it's going to get a lot worse in 2023. Because again, let's put it this way: most people in cards, and I would say most, a percentage of people in cards have some free area in it. They got in lower, so there's a lot of value in there. So for example, if I got a card that's $10,000 card, I probably didn't pay $10,000 for it. I maybe got into for 4 or 5, maybe 6. But if you're willing to give me 4 or 5 in cash for it, then I don't feel like I'm as leveraged. So a lot of people took advantage of those loans. I mean, it was almost free money again. Oh, you're gonna give me $5,000 in the $10,000 card in my vault? Great. And I'm gonna go buy more, or I could take the money out. A lot of people did that. I mean, let's be foolish if we didn't think that happened. And I think the vault companies are now starting to get a little fearful of that. Again, there's no one monitoring that, what's going on as far as how much money is going out and what they're bringing in. Investacard, I think, was the first one that did this too. I think they were the first one that did this in 2020, where they were giving you cash for cards or something like that. And then I don't know if it was PWCC or whatever started doing it. And I remember somebody talking on Instacart about this whole margin call issue. And the guy was talking about what he'd have to liquidate cards at a certain time. And that's what gave me the idea then. And then you fast forward to 2022 and you see what's going on with these cards making massive drops. And people are going, well, why are they selling it? Because they kind of have to. And they don't care as much. The P. Ryan story was really interesting, though, about the guy down in down in Florida who had the dealerships.
Yeah.
I think that's a very common thing. One thing I'll say about the hobby touches all classes of people, right? From, low income to, $1 billion rich. But there's a lot of new money who gets in the hobby. It's like, hey, let's go out and have some fun on cards and stuff like that. So, yeah, margin calls I think are going to happen more in 2023. I think there's going to be more correction on cards. I'm still not buying cards. I'm watching, but I'm not really buying.
The thing about that guy from Florida, I think he was talking to his son, and then his son was saying that, yeah, I just threw $80,000, and the dad was asking, where'd you get $80,000 from? He says, oh, PWCC lent me. I swear I heard that in that video. I'm like, wait, PWCC is lending teenagers money? Or maybe, I don't know how old that guy was. He's maybe 15 or 16. I'm like, whoa. That's crazy if PWCC is doing that.
Well, they can't. I have to assume they have to have some adult account. Like you can't be a 15-year-old and open a PWCC account.
Maybe he used his dad as I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely happens. I'm not going to say it doesn't. I've seen kids do that, where they have an account that their father opened up or something like that. But it's just, I think we'll see more of that in the future, not less of that. It's going to be interesting. I also think you're going to see one of these auction houses go under. And that will be interesting too, because if you look at what happened with Star Stock, guys, Star Stock's a great example of what happens when a vault fails. I have a bunch of cards of Star Stock that are basically going to be lost. I'm not going to pay the money to get them out. I can't really sell them. No one's buying anything on them. I would give them away. I would
how much do you have on
them to charity. I think it tells me a value of $1,000, which is not true. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I have a lot of Bowman Firsts up there. I have a lot of old Prism rookie cards. I mean, nothing that's worth, in my opinion, more than a few bucks per card, but they're trapped.
How much does it cost for shipping?
I honestly haven't looked at it. It's not as expensive as they tell you. I know if you look at the thing, it's like, it calculates to be $800, but if you contact them and say, hey, I want to close out my account, they will work with you to get you the best shipping price. I just haven't dealt with it. I personally, I don't want them. I really don't want the cards back. Some of them I sent there to sell. And the reason I'm bringing it up is once they're there, they're trapped. I think, I'm going to quote somebody who said, vaults are a card prison. Vaults are a card prison. I'm not going to say the person's name because I don't want to get them in trouble, but I love that quote because they are. When you send cards to a vault, they're stuck there. And they don't want you to send them back either. They're going to find other ways for you to keep them. Are you sure you want to send it back? We'll get it to you. They're going to delay it or whatever. So I think you're going to see a vault fail. And when that vault fails, you're going to see some liquidation go on there. You'll see some more lawsuits go on there. It will be a better time to buy, I think, by the end of this year. By the end of 2022 or 2023, it's going to be like a fire sale. It's going to be sad.
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
I'd also say this too. If you are buying, buy at 50%. Be rude when you're making offers because sadly, people are going to need to take the cash. Like if you're selling, don't offer 80% of eBay. I'll give you 40 or 50% of eBay comps because, guys, I'm telling you, cards are still declining. There's nothing right now as we go into January. Like another of my favorite things is every month someone tells me it's the month that sports cards are going to take off. Pancake Analytics can appreciate this. It is not going to be January, February. That is not when sports cards take off. He makes a great point that February is probably the best month statistically to buy cards because they dip the most, which I agree with.
Yeah, a lot of people buy holiday presents during this time, so they have to pay it off if they're on credit card debt and all that stuff.
I'll say too, everybody who says that, every content creator who tells you that, oh, this month's the month things are going to be better, has about 2 years of experience. And that's what bothers me the most. I have not seen a single content creator who's been around for 5 years come out and say, oh, this is the month things come up, because they know better than that. Experienced collectors know.
Yeah, and going back to the vaults, and you're talking about Investacard. I think Investacard had a vault, or they still have a vault. I saw, Extrinsic Collections. Have you heard of that channel?
I have.
On IG, and MNT Trading on Twitter. He does some really good work. And Michael was talking about how there are some cards that have gone down maybe in a few months, 70% or something ridiculous. I have to go back to one of his tweets. So if it's going down that much and Investacard's lending to some of these guys, and obviously some of these guys are not paying, I'm just wondering what's going on with the books of Investacard, and are they going to be in business in the next few years unless they have like huge backers? If they have huge backers or that guy is like affluent, then yeah.
I don't think he's doing anymore. I don't think he is. And I'll tell you, just to give you some history, guys. Back in 2020 on my channel, I did a series on selling, and I actually signed up with Investacard back in 2020. Their program was the very first vault. You sent them cards. And here's what their system was that I like. You're supposed to send them cards. They were going to walk them over to SGC, get them graded, and then you were supposed to talk to them about when the best time is to list them on eBay. Unfortunately, they didn't do that. They started listing them at bad times, and they started selling at really cheap prices, and they just were doing really poorly in the market. But the goal was you're supposed to have a consultant with you, and you're supposed to work with that consultant to determine when you want your cards to go on the market and when you want them to be held. And that just didn't work well. Then he started doing the loaning of money, and that was probably 2020, 2021. But I don't think he's doing it anymore. I'll just say the Investacard guy was the first one, though, who had the idea of send me your raw cards. I'm going to walk them across the street here at SGC because he lived in Florida, get them graded, and then come back, and my team's going to work with you to sell the cards. It's a great idea. In fact, I'll even say today, there is a place for that market. In fact, if you follow the Magpie, what she's basically doing is helping collectors liquidate their portfolios or curate their collections. So there is a market for that, where if somebody who has experience, you could come to them, send them your raw cards or whatever. They could help you get them graded and then help you determine what markets and what marketplace to sell them, what auction house, whether you use eBay and so forth. That's a great market. I think you'll see more of that because, again, people are looking at ways to liquidate their cards, and they're looking for trusted people to do that.
Interesting. Yeah, I just think that with the vaults, like you said earlier, some of these companies are going to go bankrupt. And then you could have a situation like Karl Marx, like I like saying, a Marx card situation where the cards are at PSA, but then we don't know who owns it. But then PSA was nice enough to start the process of handing those cards back to the rightful owners, if they did, for most of these guys. Now, I'm just thinking other companies may not be so nice. It may go through a bankruptcy process. So if you have some of your cards at a vault, I'm not saying all companies are going to go bankrupt. I'm just saying the weaker ones obviously will. What happens to those cards then at a vault?
I don't know. I would check the fine print. Again, I was talking to a channel about this. The only place that I know you have legal protection of your property in a secure manner is at a bank safe deposit box, because even if the bank goes out of business, the bank legally has to turn that property over to the state, and it sits in the state's protection until the proper person comes forward to get that. And there was a great story recently, probably a few weeks ago, about a guy who did that, where he had cards in a safety deposit box. He was overseas for a few years, came back, the bank went out of business. He found out his collection was at, I think, the state of Utah. He got it back, but great story. Only safety deposit boxes guarantee you that protection. I don't think any vault does that. Okay. And you should check that. Like, I personally don't see any reason to use a vault. I have had some friends who will argue with me, hey, if you're buying and selling high-end cards, the eBay vaults are nice because I can keep it up there, the taxes. I can understand that. That's not my world. Right. But I can tell you right now, if I had a very expensive Mickey Mantle, the last place I'd be putting it at is one of these other vault companies. I would
even if it's like an eBay that is publicly traded.
eBay would be the only one I'd use. But I'm saying I would probably use a safety deposit box. Honestly, would, because I know that I'm protected by the law with the bank, the state. You know what I'm saying? That's all there. I don't have to second guess it. That's the vault. The only reason for the vault is if you want to sell it again. You know what I'm saying? If you want to sell it again, then it's nice to have it in the vault. I understand that. Cajun Cardboard did a great explanation. If you're doing a set, if you're selling a set, you have it in a vault, it's a great way to do it. I can understand that. There are some applicable reasons for vaults, but there's no reason to have, how many vaults we have? 5, 6 of them. That's ridiculous, right? There probably will be 1 or 2. eBay will be one of them, and there'll probably be somebody else out there as a sequel to the Oracle of the world, second fiddle.
Steve Splenda says safety deposit boxes are greater than prison vaults.
They are. I mean, it's just, I know people, and also you can put other things in there too, right? You can put your family stuff in there. Here's an interesting thing. I was listening to eBay. The eBay guys in their vault are only putting cards in it, but they've actually had requests from other eBay users for jewelry, fine art, other stuff, and eBay didn't design that yet in their vault, which I thought was interesting. Right? Because 2 things. That shows that eBay was paying enough attention to this market to build a vault specifically to counter what's going on in the sports card market, but didn't think that it would be, or I won't say didn't think, but didn't plan to expand it to other markets immediately. Like, it will be. You will see. And that's another thing that's great, right? Could you imagine the eBay vault where you come in, you could trade your card for maybe a real something else? I don't know, a coat for your wife and a diamond necklace or something. You could do all that in the eBay vault. Would you trust PWCC with your wife's jewelry? I wouldn't.
Hard Jimba, or I'll call him Jim Harbaugh. You dip. All right. Let's take a look at some other comments. Jim Harbaugh says, is Jeff Wilson suing Sports Card Radio? Well, we'll find out in the next few weeks. I know Sports Card Radio is going to be doing a video today. So
yeah, I think they're announcing it today because they apparently got served yesterday by something. And
yeah, I think it was some sort of legal notice. I don't think it was a lawsuit yet.
Yeah,
but I think Sports Card Radio is going to countersue, and I think.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I if I were Jeff Wilson, I'd probably do a video explaining the businesses that I have or that he has, and I wouldn't sue them because I think it could open up a can of worms.
I agree.
That's my opinion.
I'm bothered by the situation because I am a fan of both in a way. Like, I like what both are trying to do. And I kind of wish you'd get them both. Like, I really do believe that most of the people who care about the hobby, if you got them the same table and you had dinner with them, we could walk away trying to make things better. You know what I'm saying? But I think we get off on the wrong, I don't know. There's just a lot of envy, jealousy, whatever it is, but a lot of hate between people. Because what Sports Card Radio is trying to do is the right thing. What Jeff is trying to do, I don't say it's the right thing, but he's trying to do the right thing. The PPP thing, in my opinion, it is what it is. If you don't like him for it, then don't like him for it. You do, move on. But it will be interesting to see. I will say lawsuits, in my opinion, are good because they will cause change. You know.
Yeah, we shall see what happens with this.
Like, I'll tell you right now, if Sports Card Radio all of a sudden goes quiet and you stopped hearing them on the put out content, I'm not going to lie to you. Wouldn't you pucker up a little bit? Like, shit. I would be concerned. Like, someone just silenced the best voice in the hobby. But it's definitely something I think about.
Let's take a look at some other comments. Ryan says, "Hey everyone, PSA was born through fraud with the coin grading scandal." So that's
Yeah,
PCGS.
yeah.
And the Gretzky McNeil Wagner, the hobby has long-term memory problems.
Absolutely. There's no memory in this hobby, man. There is no memory. In fact, that's another thing Sports Card Radio posted yesterday. Should we give everybody forget it, the past, and move forward in 2023? And my comment was absolutely no, because the hobby already has the shortest memory there is. And in fact, let me make a comment I made earlier. The reason you're not going to hear anybody else talk about this whole lawsuit going on between Alt and Beckett is because none of these companies really want liability involved. PSA doesn't want liability. They don't want someone to peel the onion back and go, well, your liability thing's really bogus, right? Because how am I going to prove this? And what are you going to give me? It's just marketing, guys. It's well done marketing. A lot of what happens in the hobby is well done marketing. And if regulations or lawsuits come in, people are going to get exposed.
Yep. All right. Great Curator is associated with Jeff Wilson now. That was it's been for some time. They've been in reels together for at least 6 months.
And this is
maybe earlier this year. They're in videos together. So
no, you're right. And this is where I go back to guilt by association. I saw again Lucas Tigers and Bronze goes, oh, how are you going to make me feel? You guilt by association. My point is, look, I understand we know people in the hobby. You're going to meet people. You might not know the person you meet's a bad person, but if you find out later on that they've done some pretty bad things, I don't think you should associate with them. Or I think you should at least talk out against them or say, hey, you should do something different. The Great Curator, I'll sit here and say this. I didn't like him. I went and saw him at the National. I spoke to him about the things I was concerned about. Him and I had a conversation. He said, oh, I understand, Ziggy. I'll be better. And he said to take me off his block list. And then he continues to run his little mouth. And he didn't take anybody off his block list. So that's why I've come out after him. It bothers me because, again, he's another example of someone who, A, doesn't know anything what he's talking about. When you sit there and your first comment is, anybody can play on any team you want in the World Cup. You just can go live in that country. That is one of the dumbest statements I've ever heard. Anyway, it just I don't like dumb people calling, making bad comments and no one's saying it about them. We got to stop that. He's not good for the hobby, guys.
Yeah, I think where he struck out on that comment that he made the other day is he says that, hey, people say things about his background. I don't support that, but then you make that statement that may be construed as offensive, then you can't be saying that, hey, people are coming after me. So that's how I view it.
Well, again, I'd say first thing, Dan, if you're listening, stop blocking and start talking. Right? Have the balls to get on it live with somebody and have a dialogue. And they're gonna he goes and hides on channels. A lot of content creators do this. They hide on friendly channels. I will go on any channel almost any time, talk to anybody. Right? You're the same way. If we got a debate, and a lot of people appreciate that. I appreciate it. Let's have a conversation. I'm not gonna be angry about it. But when you're gonna hide and you're gonna block everybody, I don't know. It bothers me, and it really bothers me the people who associate with him. Like you said, why is Jeff Wilson working with Dan, the Great Curator? I just don't get it. Another one I don't like is the Daps guy. I mean, he's done some other. The thing I'll tell you about Daps is Daps did this video where he shows you a Justin Herbert Silver Prism, and then he shows you a Justin Herbert Silver Prism Auto in his video to compare the two. And I forget which one he did first, but he's basically trying to tell the audience, this one sold for $10,000. I've got this one in my hand. I'm going to get $10,000 out of this one. I'm like, dude, they're clearly two different cards. Like, why are you even saying that? But that's the type of stuff that's going on. That I don't know, people don't call out in the hobby. Sports Card Investigator was, by the way, the one who called out that Daps video.
Oh yeah, I remember that. This is a good one. Steve Splenda says Curator loved Jeff Wilson for the clout, then threw him under the bus in a live when addressing the STR call out LMAO, and then he does his Star Wars index or something like that.
Yeah, which again, I'm going to blame. I blame Sports Card Investor on that one. Why would you approach him for that? Like, why did you approach this dude to do the Star Wars one? I thought that was a poor choice. I mean, maybe they couldn't find anybody else, but
yeah, they want to diversify. They see, Star Wars could be big down the road with fanatics, and who's the guy that talks about Star Wars a lot? It's him. And then
it's him. It's him here's another problem. It's him in the Sports Card Investor community. There's too many of these coaching trees, right? Where they, everybody under the Jeff Wilson tree, they're all together. Everybody under the Curry letter. But if you look across the hobby, there's really good guys in Star Wars who would have made a much better Star Wars, advocate. I can't remember the guy's name, but I have a video about him. I pull up. He did one where he goes through a Star Wars collection. He's no Star Wars in and out. Dan came to Star Wars about 2 years ago, I believe. You know what I'm saying? So my point is, SCI should have looked across the hobby, not just across, their affiliate program or whoever it is to pick a Star Wars guy, in my opinion. I don't even know how they did it, but I don't blame Dan as much as I do Sports Card Investor for that. Another thing I'll make too, when Sports Card Investor did his Hobby Palooza thing or his virtual a few weeks ago, this was right after the PPP thing. And I applaud those people who did come and participate, whether you like it or not. I thought that was cool. It bothered me that Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze participated, and then the next day they made negative comments about being on it. Okay, in other words, they went on there and go, well, how much slack did you get? Yeah, I got a bunch of negative messages. And why'd you go on the PPP guy show? And then my favorite one was Cage, and I hope you hear this, Cage, going, yeah, I woke up the next morning and checked my Instagram to see how many new followers I had no new ones. Which again just emphasizes exactly what I said. Those guys go on shows for fucking clout. They're trying to get followers. He doesn't care about Sports Card Investor. He doesn't care about Jeff, but he'll show up on his channel to get a few viewers. It just irks me, guys. It does. Own it. Own who you are, right? You're looking for advertisers. You're a PWCC channel. You run their advertising all the time. Own who you are. Don't come on someone's channel being nice about Sports Card Investor and then throw them under the bus a few minutes later. That's just terrible.
Yeah, I think the other thing about that Star Wars index is that, right now, okay, there aren't that big cards, but down the road there could be. And I think Dan has some of the cards in there, I think, and Murley too. So that could be perceived as a conflict of interest.
Well, it also sounds like they're getting cards sent to them for free by Topps now.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. That's what some people are DMing me about.
Which I have to tell you, Topps, if you're listening, there's nothing that disgusts me more. If you want to give free stuff to people, give it to freaking kids. Do not give it to grown men who have millions of dollars who are sitting there. And my favorite part is he shows you the card. Oh, I got this in my Star Wars card. Oh, what are you going to do with that? You giving that one away? Oh, no, this one's going on eBay, man. I'm making money on. I mean, he's so clear about it. I mean, so let me just be clear. I'm getting free cards from Topps. I'm going to open them up, and I'm going to give away the crap ones, and I'm going to sell the great ones. Hey, Topps, send me more. I'm going to advertise for you. That's just terrible. Terrible.
Oh. All right. Sleep tight at night. All right. Let's go with this topic head on. So let me get this straight. You guys upset with GC, great curator, about saying questionable stuff regarding race, but don't seem to care that SDR said a ton of racist stuff. How would you respond?
I'll respond to this. I am just as upset with it. And I have said that in videos. I do not think what they said is appropriate. It really pissed me off. I think it was a few weeks ago. They did another video where it seemed like they were grasping. And I know what it was. They did the Sasha T one, and they did a cut to Obama saying something about some terrorist. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And I said that again. However, guys, I'm not going to cut my nose off to spite my face. Sports Card Radio still does things that are important. I'm going to continue to critique them. I have also spoken to them in chat. They're not a fan of mine. Okay. They haven't invited me on their channel. They don't hate me.
But hold on. I thought they invited you that one time.
They did when you guys had the thing. You're right. They did send me an invite and I wasn't available, but I've since spoken to them and reached out and they have not invited me. And part of it is, without going into it, I did ask them a couple things. They came back to me some stuff without going details. I'll just say this. We do not see eye to eye. So I have said stuff to them about the racist comments. I don't know if it's in the chat, but I have. I've definitely made it in my videos. And I'll say this to the listening, guys. You can do better than that. Okay? You really can. You have, and I'll say it to everybody. Dan, you can do better than that. I'm not going to condemn somebody as, oh, they're racist and never talk to me again. I'm going to call it out when I see it. And I'm going to say to them, you can do better. We can all do better. And I'm not perfect. I'm a human being. Shit, I'm a white male. I'm a privileged white male. So I'm just saying we can all do better, but I'm not going to cut my nose, obviously. I'm never listening to Sports Card Radio again for that. If that makes sense.
Random says, great curator is racist for saying black soccer player that play for France don't have French surname.
Again, what I'd say there, it's not that he's racist. He made a prejudiced comment, right? He prejudged. And a lot of people do that. And it bothers me that here's what bothered me about my video when I said is that how can he be a sponsor to companies like Topps, to companies like Slabstrong, when he does say stuff like that? That bothers me. And I think they should be aware of that. Now, he's got his own issues to work through. That's his choice. He's not alone. There's a lot of racist people who said mean things about the French team. I think that's horrible. I mean, Mbappe is a phenomenal guy. And you hear the racist stuff that he took in Europe about him. It's terrible. And they did the same thing in Europe when the English team lost. Was it the Premier Cup? Remember that? Or few months, weeks ago, when the English team, Saka, I think it was, missed the penalty kick. There's a lot of racist tension in sports, so I don't support any of it.
So, like, my thoughts about this is that, yeah, I was linking to this stuff, but my own thoughts is, whatever you say, and if you cross the line, I believe in the physics of karma. So if you say something off base, people are going to come after you. I don't believe in cancel culture.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm 100% against cancel culture. So, if I say something about one particular group, people are going to come after me, right? That's fair game. So that's how I view it. I mean, we're adults, so
Yep.
that's how I view it, in my opinion.
Also, cancel culture, guys, it doesn't work. You have to know, like a friend of mine said a long time ago, if you want to make change, there's two ways to make change. You can stand outside the wall screaming and yelling, or you can get inside behind the wall and make change happen. And I believe that's the case. If you see something you don't like, understand it, learn about it, figure out why those people are the way they are. Like you said, if you make a racist comment, I just know who you are. I know where you stand. I'm going to continue to know more about who you are.
Las Vegas Collectibles says, good morning, fellas. Hope you're having a great morning. Cheers. Yes.
Great channel, by the way. Do you follow him, Raul?
Yeah, I watched some of his videos. They're quite interesting. He talks about MTG, the stock market,
New content creator, just new to the hobby, very honest about that he's new to the hobby. New father, just really enjoy his channel. If you guys haven't checked it out, I really like Las Vegas Collectibles. I like a lot of the channels out here. I mean, I don't want to just pick on him, but it's good to see you, sir. I know it's early for you too.
Yeah,
baby must have him up.
Let's see. Any other topics you wanted to get into? Like, I don't know how long you have. We usually do an hour, but
yeah, I have to drop in a few minutes for actually a work call. But
okay.
Quick question for you: what are your plans for 2023? And what I mean by that, first of all, let me say this: I love what you're doing because you're a voice, a great voice. I love people talk about you. You've also have, I don't want to say a following, but there's like others like you. Like I put Dan the Card Man. There's more people like you. I'm wondering what your plans are for the future. I hope you do the same thing. And I'm also curious on how we can help you more. And what I mean by that is I know a lot of people send you information when they hear it, but if I hear it or other people hear it, do you want more of that? Do you want to continue being the voice of the hobby as you move forward? I mean, there's a gap there. Is that something you're looking at, or what are your thoughts for 2023 before I kind of commit you to stuff?
I just want to do the same type of videos. Maybe I got a little intense in some of my videos. It's just maybe me, instead of talking, I may do more videos where I share my screen, on Zoom.
Yep.
I have a new computer, so it doesn't freeze up as much. So I think I'm just going to record on Zoom and just do like the videos like I did with the trim card situation that you watched the other day. So that's what I'm going to be doing next year in terms of collecting. I'm going to just look out whatever I see is a nice card that is appropriately priced and, go from there. So
what I'd like to ask,
yeah,
I love your conversations, your lives like this. I would love for you to do something on a regular basis. And I know it's hard to do, but I look again, like I feel like there's a gap in that. If you had like a night that you were doing live and we saw you on with a guest or something like that, I think it's awesome. Because I do love, I mean, you have brought a lot of new channels to me that I was not unaware of. And I know you do a lot in Instagram community where I'm not as active. So I would love to see more of that. I really enjoy what you're doing. If I can help you in any way, you know that. I've always appreciated you. You're a voice of reason. For everybody else who's listening, Raul's one of the people I sometimes will DM, and he kind of calms me down sometimes or fires me up. So I appreciate that. And there's others like you out there. I really love the community. And I appreciate you having me on today, this morning. I wish you a happy holiday and everybody else who's watching as well.
Yeah. What are your plans before you have to go on a work call?
So I am moving my channel more towards what I call hobby content. I'm going to try, and I'll two things. I have a second channel, a smaller channel, which I'm going to use my ranting channel on. So you'll see me rant and I'll post that, right? But my main channel, I'm going to do more collectible stuff. I'm going to put stuff out there that I want to see people want to use regularly. So I'm going to do product releases every week. I'm going to continue to do my shout out series. So shout out to new channels every week or channels that I'm following. I want to do more on great interviews that are going on in the hobby, not necessarily having them, but bring attention to some. There's some really good interviews going on. And some other creative ideas. I want to do more comedy. This sounds crazy, but I've always wanted to be a stand-up comedian. And I have some skits that I've worked on that are really, really terrible, but I might release some of those. So you might see some funny stuff on the channel, but the channel is going to be more, I'll be honest. I want to grow my subscribers naturally, right? Organically. I was listening to, I think it was Junk Wax Hero yesterday talk about this. I don't want to, get thousands. I want to see strong, continued growth. So I'm very excited about what's going on in the future.
That's good. Maybe one more comment before we head off. Patches O'Halloran or Houlihan says Golden admitted to wire fraud and turns around deleting it, knowing he fell for it, and now they have that post to use against him. I'm not aware of it, so if you can let me know what that's about. I don't know. I know there's Hanky Panky and his name, many stories out there, but
that is an interesting one. I guess my thoughts are, I'm even surprised that Ken even deals with the hobby. Like, if he's made as much money as he said, why doesn't he just go off and retire? Like, why deal with all the drama and the constant hits and attacks? You know what I'm saying? That's one thing I would honestly ask him, like, is it really worth it, dude, to do all this?
Yeah. Is that why he has, what's his name? Card Ladder. He's buddies with Card Ladders, it looked like. Not Card Ladder, card porn. So, I don't know.
Well, I know he's always been, sorry, I'm having problems here.
All right, let's take a look at some of the comments here. Other comments from up above.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
No, we were saying about Ken. I forget, but
yeah. So you're talking about Ken, how he should retire or something like that.
Yeah. I just, if I was talking, I'd be like, hey, Ken, why do you even put up with all this? I mean, I know, like, for example, you can tell he's got some, I don't want to say the wrong word, some guilt. Like, I think in a way he does want to do something good for the hobby, but I think every time he does, he gets in trouble, right? Like, if you go back to the video he did many years ago where he said, I had 40 of the PSA 10s and I wanted to control them coming in on the market. I don't think he intentionally was trying to manipulate the market. But looking back, you can look, hey, Ken, you're manipulating the market. You know what I'm saying? So I think he accidentally just does stupid things in a way, if that makes sense. I think he does like cards, maybe. Like I said, I'd like to have a drink with him, have a steak or have a drink and just talk to him. But I would say, Ken, why even deal with this? Just walk away, man. You've got your millions. Go play golf. Let someone else do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you deal with all the drama in this? But anyway.
Yeah. I think Patches then clarified. I think I heard about this. Golden admitted to using the credit card slips he took from the trash, getting charged and convicted of wire fraud, and saying he told Netflix and investors about it. I know he told Netflix something. I just don't know. That whole allegation of the N-word story, if you remember.
Yeah.
2013, 2012. I know he said something about that in a post.
Is the Netflix series going to happen or did it get canceled?
I think it's going on. I think Ken already tweeted something about it. I think he said that he had to sign an NDA.
This is another.
He's replied to Breakout Cards.
I got to go in a minute, but this is another example. I guess I'm frustrated. If you look at the hobby and the good content we have in there, how the hell that we come out with Behind the Card movie by the dude Chris, whatever the heck, who did it like in his weekend with 5 friends, and we have Ken doing a Netflix series, just shows you how just misuse of our resources are. Like, let's be honest. Wouldn't Baseball Card Collector, Investor, Dealer made a much, much, much better host? And wouldn't you be loving to watch Chasing Cardboard series on Netflix? I mean, that's just my feeling. I mean, I'm a fan of both those, but Chasing Cardboard, the Bench Clear guys, they get a lot more people involved. They're not biased. No one's hating on them like they're Ken. And then you got Baseball Card Collector, Investor, Chris Sewell, very well liked. I mean, he'd be great for marketing around. Those are missed opportunities, in my opinion, where here's what it is. Whoever it was, Ken, went to the Netflix. Like, Netflix wasn't looking for the right person, is my opinion. You know what I mean?
They wanted to go for a guy that's been on TV, and who was on TV? It's Ken, right? He's on Fox Business.
Again, I don't think that's true, because if I'm Netflix, you don't sit there and go, I'm going to build a show, but I need a guy who's going to be on TV. That couldn't have been the reason. Like, I honestly believe that Ken solicited Netflix. You know what I'm saying? I don't think Netflix came out and picked Ken, is my point.
Okay, yeah. There's an NDA, so we'll probably not know.
And the reason I say is, again, if Netflix is looking for a good channel, if they were researching, don't you think they could have found somebody better just by Google searching? And I'm just saying, I mean, even Sports Card Investor would have come up faster than freaking Ken would have come up on a search. Not that he would have been a better person for this. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I do have to sneak out of here, man. I got to get on another call. I really appreciate this, man. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Happy holidays, everybody. Really appreciate the chat. Have a great holiday weekend. Stay safe, stay warm wherever you are around the world. Raul, thank you, man. I'm a dip.
All right, man. You dipped?
I dip.
All right. See you guys. Hope you have a nice holiday. See you guys.